Hey guys, kanolifez here. So at the time of recording this, it's the end of April, 2025. So I've mainly done my examinations already for my year 2 sem 2, and for what I've been preparing for the exam itself, right? I mainly hopped to the different libraries around Singapore that have the booking facilities. So I would at least like to share in terms of the libraries in Singapore, whether best in conduciveness in studying or not. Yep, correct. So from the different factors that I will be showing you at least as well, I can actually talk a bit more in depth of the environment and also whether it's convenient and also whether it could be good for you in studying as well. Yes, so hope you all can enjoy this video, and as much as possible, let's just say there could be any other alternatives as well other than just going to your nearby library instead of like libraries that are far away from you. But okay, there are also certain factors that could lead to, let's say, there are other libraries further that could be actually better than your nearby library. So well, you don't have to do that now. I'm doing it now. So yes, so yeah, hopefully the insights can actually help you to make one's decisions and also get to know more about the libraries in Singapore as well. Yeah, so yeah, hope you all will enjoy the video, and I'll see you all in a bit.
So the ranking is actually based on three criteria that I'll be using. So the first type of criteria is about convenience. Convenience about how I get to the library is the duration of getting to the library from the MRT station, long or short. And also, is there any shelter that is along the way, all along the way to the library itself. So the next factor is about the vibes factor, where I may be feeling more motivated or less motivated to study in such libraries, whether it being such as rundown or new or recent, like let's say bookshelves that will be seen in the environment, or let's just say in terms of conducive study environment, whether I feel more motivated to study at such libraries. Yeah, pretty much. So I'll also be accounting my score towards the facilities factor, where I actually talk about whether the tables and mainly chairs are actually rather conducive for one to study. And also will also be talking about the plug sockets available for one to use. Okay, so before I get into the tier list video, I'd like to mention a few things, a few assumptions before I get into ranking the different libraries. So in terms of libraries wise, I'm only visiting to libraries that have booking facilities, and for those that are not, I will not be visiting them. Hence, I will not actually be visiting all the libraries in Singapore actually, but it's just most of the libraries that have booking facilities, as long as the seats that are available that I can book on the NLB website, I can just count that as one of the libraries for me to go to. Yep. And also in terms of the library's convenience factor that I'll be factoring in, it's mainly from the distance that I am going to from the MRT, the nearest MRT, to the library itself. I don't mean going to the nearest bus stop. No, that's very inconvenient for me to take another bus for me to get there. That's like charging another extra fare since I'm taking the MRT concession already anyways. So yeah, that is another factor. Okay, my last assumption is mainly towards students that will at least use a laptop or a tablet, which requires the plug sockets for one to continue charging their tablets or laptops whenever they are doing their work, so that they can sustain the amount of time, they can sustain long hours of time in the library to mainly conducively study from there. And so let's get into the video. So considering that I'm staying in the east side of Singapore, so my first stop will be at the opposite side, which is the west side of Singapore, starting off with Jurong West, which is near the Boon Lay MRT. which I've booked the beside quiet reading area of level 3 in the library itself. For the convenience factor, I will rate it as a B rank as it's mainly sheltered and it takes around 5 to 10 minutes walk from the mall, the MRT, to the library itself. For the vibes factor, I will give it a B rank as well. Seems is actually rather clean and also at the same time rather plain, but as well as a standard atmosphere so that one can mainly focus on my own study. And for the facilities rating, I will give it a B rank as the aircon is not too shabby and in terms of the tables, quite spacious. Hence, I will give it an overall rating of B. So the next stop I've stopped at is at Jurong Regional Library, which is near the Jurong East MRT, where I've booked the study area at level 3. So the convenience rating that I've placed is B-, as the journey from the MRT to the place itself is not sheltered and it also takes a 10 minutes walk. So remember to bring an umbrella if you're heading there. And for the vibes factor itself, it's an S rank for me. It's quite good actually, one of the better libraries for that. As there are a lot of seats, as you can see earlier, there are 198 seats for the booking, holy. And basically a lot of people are studying there, so it can motivate you actually, yeah. But for facilities rating wise, aircon I would say is quite good. However, the table space can actually be quite squeezy from one another. Hence, I'll give it as a B rating. Hence, the overall grade I'll give for this library is a B rank. Next stop is at the Clementi Library, where I've booked one of the seats at Tamil Collection at level 5, which is actually the only type of seats that was available there. So the place itself is in the mall, in Clementi Mall, so that's why I'll give it a B rank as it's actually sheltered and at the same time a 5 minutes walk from the MRT itself. And then for the vibe section, because I'm actually facing the wall, hence I'll give it a D rank as I am not really fond of just looking at the wall and then just study. It's not the best for me. And for the facilities rating, I will give it a C as I find that the aircon quality is not that good, yet not that bad either, I guess. But and in terms of the spacing wise, it's not very sufficient. Hence, I will give it an overall rating of C. So the next stop I've stopped at is at Choa Chu Kang Public Library, where I've booked the study and multimedia zone at level 4, where there are actually some computers there for people's use as well. So for the convenience factor that I've placed, this one I didn't use the computers there actually, where I've given it B+ rank just because that is sheltered in the mall itself and it's also around 5 minutes walk from the MRT itself and it's easy to find as well. And for the vibes rating, I'll give it an A rank because when I entered the library, it felt like it gave me mainly a futuristic view of the library itself and I liked the vibrant colors in the library itself. And also lastly, I've given the facilities rating a B rank mainly because the aircon is actually okay and also just the right table space for me, I guess. So the overall grade will be a B+ rating for me. So the next library I've stopped at is at Bukit Panjang Public Library, where I've booked the adult non-fiction section at level 4. So for the convenience rating, I have given it a B- rating as it's actually not sheltered along the way and it takes around a 10 minutes walk from the MRT itself. And for the vibes section itself, I've given it an A+ rating for this as it actually shows the SMU lecture-like seats that they've shown there, and basically I'm actually fond of it lah. Yeah, I can actually look at people below, downstairs, and also above as well. Yeah, actually quite similar to another library which I'll mention later. And for the facilities rating, I have actually given it a B rating as the aircon is actually okay and just slightly insufficient space. Hence for overall, I'll give it a B rating for the library. So that is actually all for the western side of Singapore, where Choa Chu Kang is actually the best library so far that I've visited in the west side of Singapore, followed by Bukit Panjang, Jurong Regional Library at Jurong East, Jurong West, and afterwards will be Clementi being the last and worst library for me for the western side of Singapore. Afterwards, I've went to the northern side of Singapore, where the first stop I've had is at the Woodlands Regional Library, where I've mainly booked the Work and Study Zone F at level 2. The convenience rating is an A, as it's actually sheltered if you actually walk the correct path, and it's taking around 5 minutes walk from the MRT itself. And for the vibes factor, there are actually a lot of types of seats that people can actually choose, and there's a cafe downstairs, so it's actually a plus for this A rating that I will give for vibe section. And for the facilities rating, I will actually give it an A, mainly because of 2 factors. Mainly because that the air condition is actually good and it's quite strong actually, and also that it's actually showing the biggest tables as compared to the other libraries that are going through later in the series. Okay, so the overall rating I'll give is an A for this library. Next, I've went to the Sembawang Public Library, where I've booked the only section, which is the adult section at level 5. So the convenience rating that I'll give is B, as it's of course mainly sheltered in the mall and also takes around 5 to 10 minutes walk from the MRT itself. For the vibe section, I'll give it way lower compared to the other libraries, mainly because it's actually quite noisy with some of the events going on, so it's not really my type to say that, oh hey, it's actually a library and it's a conducive space for me to study, you know. And lastly, for facilities, I'm giving it the worst one here, D rating, because not only that your tables are actually the smallest ones, and the aircon is actually not that cold. Yeah, it's not that cold, but otherwise I can still study a bit, I guess. Yeah, so the overall grade for this is C. Not the worst library, by the way. The next stop I was at Yishun Public Library, where I've booked the Malay collection seat at level 4. So for the convenience rating for this library itself, I'm gonna be real here. It's a C rating for this library, just because even though it's sheltered, it will take around 10 to 15 minutes walk from the MRT itself, mainly being known for its north and southern wing for North Point City. Yes, that is another Suntec City maze that I need to conquer through to get to the library. So next is mainly about the vibes, where I've given it a B rating, as I find that the background is rather futuristic and the colors were vibrant for me to actually focus on studying more. And afterwards, I've given it a B- for the facilities rating, mainly because the tables can be a bit small for me, which is still okay, and I guess the aircon is still okay for me. Hence, the overall grade I will give is B-. And so with the north side being covered already, we can find that Woodlands is the best library so far for me, and followed by Choa Chu Kang, Bukit Panjang, and the other western side of Singapore libraries, and also followed by Yishun and Sembawang in the middle of the mentioned libraries beforehand. So the next stop I've decided to go is Queenstown Public Library, which is the left portion of the central region in Singapore, which I've booked the near quiet reading room at level 2. I'll be frank here, the convenience rating that I gave is D rank, where I find that the journey is actually not sheltered. Not only that, it takes around 10 to 15 minutes walk from the MRT, which can be quite long and quite inconvenient if it rains. And also for the vibes, I give it a D as well, as is because that the library is actually quite old, 50 plus years already, and it actually makes me not want to study as much. Yeah. And for the facilities rating, I will actually give it a B-, as hey, like the tables can be quite large and of course sufficient space for me to do my work, but the aircon is actually not cold at all, which affects quite a lot of people, including myself. So the overall grade I'll give is D rank, which somehow is still not the worst library here. My next stop was at Library at Harbourfront, which is near the Harbourfront MRT, and I've booked the Reading Lounge 1 middle tier at level 3. For the convenience rating that I will give is at B, which is mainly because yes, it's sheltered in the mall, but it takes around 10 minutes walk and we need to conquer the maze, which is quite big actually for Vivo City. Yeah. And the vibes for this library is actually SS. Yes, it's very breathtaking, and heck, there's a lot of things in like the environment that I see. I can see monorails, I can see like traffic, I can see the sea as well, which It's very breathtaking, and I would recommend for you to try. One of the best libraries for the vibes actually. And also the facilities is actually an A plus for me, as it feels very SMU like Bukit Panjang Library with very good aircon. But a small con is you need to use an EZ-Link card or IC to enter the library premises. And the overall grade for this library is an S rank. Next, we move on to Ang Mo Kio Public Library, back to Central again, where I've booked the seat at Young People section at level 2. And I'll just say it first, for the convenience factor, it is the worst library that I've been so far. Yes, it is partially sheltered along the way, but from the path that I walked, it's not really that sheltered that much towards the library, and it takes around a 15 to 20 minutes walk from the MRT. Hell no, I'm not gonna go back there again. I'll just say that first. But for the vibes wise, I'll give it mainly a B rank, mainly because it's actually quite fine and fresh with like the colours and also people studying there with sofas as well to rest. But for the facilities rating, I'll give it a C, as the tables can actually be quite small and the plug sockets are actually quite weirdly placed as compared to other libraries. Hence, the overall grading for this library is a C rank. So the next stop is at Bishan Public Library near the Bishan MRT, where I've booked the Young People's Collection at level 4. So the convenience is actually quite one of the better ones in terms of library wise compared to other libraries. Is an A rank that I'll give, that is sheltered and also 5 minutes walk from the MRT itself. For the vibes wise, I'll give it an A as well, as for this library is actually not very populated with a lot of people, hence you can find yourself not having a lot of noise in the library produced by others lah. Yeah, so there's also a cafe downstairs if you want to get a drink or coffee from there, so it's quite good. However, the facilities I'll give is a B minus, as I'm just gonna criticize mainly on the tables there. That is actually one of the smallest tables as compared to other libraries, so that is a trade-off. So the overall grade I'll give for this library is a B rank. So the next stop I've stopped at is Toa Payoh Public Library, where I've booked the seat at beside the seating area at level 2. And yes, for the convenience rating for this library itself is sheltered, and it's also a 5 to 10 minutes walk from the MRT itself, more towards the 10 minutes side. Hence I'll give it just a B ranking for this. But for the vibe section, holy cow, it's an S rank for this whole. Yes, so mainly I've seen is actually there's a lot of types of seats over there that one can book, even though it's actually a smaller library than expected, but it's actually a lot of seats available to book from. And I would say it's one of the best ambience with coloured walls that I've seen ever so far. And for the facilities wise, I'll mainly give it an A, as it's actually sufficient table space for me to do my work as well. Yeah, so the overall grade I'll give for this library is an A rank. I'll definitely come back here again with great aircon as well. Alright, this is gonna be a very long name, but the next stop I'm at is at Lee Kong Chian Reference Library near the Bugis MRT, which I've booked the seat at Launch Hot Desk Zone at level 7. The convenience rating wise will be a B minus, as it's not sheltered along the way and it takes around a 5 to 10 minutes walk from the MRT itself. For the vibe section, I'll give it an A, mainly because there are actually multiple types of seats across the library from levels 7 to 11, and it actually shows quite a good ambience with its flooring, with its bookshelves, with the people standing there and the types of seats as well. And lastly, for the facilities rating, I'll give it an S rank. It's very good. The table space can actually be quite big. The air condition quality is quite good. However, there's actually a small con that there are bag checks before entering or exiting the library itself. Hence, you actually cannot bring any soft drinks into the library. This is the only one library that you cannot bring. So, hence the overall grade for this is an A rank here. So, if you didn't know, Lee Kong Chian Library has also a Basement 1 library, which is also called a Central Public Library, also near the Bugis MRT, where I've booked the seat at Study Zone at level B1. The convenience rating for this is still the same as Lee Kong Chian, which is a B minus, as it's the same route. For vibes wise, I'll give it a B minus, lower than Lee Kong Chian, mainly because there are actually a lot more kids here and it actually can be quite noisy. So personally, I prefer the library upstairs, which is Lee Kong Chian. And also for the facilities wise, okay, it's actually taking a smaller table space as compared to the ones in upstairs. Yeah, and also that since it's basement 1, right, there are also windows that, okay, sunlight rays can be shown downstairs, and I can feel the heat from downstairs already, and it's not a good thing. So the overall grade I'll give is a B- rating for this library. So the last Central Region library that I went to is the Geylang East Public Library, which is near to the Aljunied MRT, where I booked the seat at Quiet Reading Room at level 2 of the library. For me, I find that the convenience towards the library is a B+ for me, as it is 95% sheltered, up to you, since it's under the MRT rails, and it's also a 5 minutes walk from the MRT itself, hence it's very convenient. Next, I find that the vibes is actually a B- for me, since I feel that the library is a bit old, but the grade is slightly higher, as you can expect that there is actually not a lot of people here, hence it's not as noisy. For the facilities rating, I'll give it a B rank, as I felt that the table space is sufficient, have enough plug sockets for me to use, and also that the aircon is mainly okay as well, not so special. So I'll give the overall grade as a B for this library. Alright, with the central side so far done, so far is mainly that the best library overall is Harbourfront and the Central Region side as well, followed by Woodlands, Toa Payoh, Bugis at the A rank, followed by Ang Mo Kio being at C rank, and Queenstown be at D rank, which is actually the worst library overall so far. However, still not the worst yet. So, moving on to the northeastern side of Singapore, my next stop will be Serangoon Public Library, where I've booked the seat at near Chinese Children Collection at level 4. So for the convenience portion, I've picked it as a B tier, as yes, it is mainly sheltered in the mall and it takes around 5 to 10 minutes walk from the MRT, pretty standard. However, for the vibe section, I've given it as a C tier, as I felt that the seats I was facing the wall, which is actually not really the best thing, and also that they are only having a few seats that are available to book here actually. Yes. And for facility section, I've given it also a C tier, as the table sizes can be quite small and the spaces in between is not that sufficient between each other. So I felt that the overall grade for this library will be a C grade here. So the next stop that I've stopped at is Sengkang Public Library, which I've booked the seat at the Reading Lounge at level 3. Now I would say that the convenience portion of it is a B+ tier, as it's mainly sheltered in the mall and it's also 5 minutes walk from the MRT, quite close and standard, yes. But I cannot say the same about the other two sections, which about the vibes portion, I'll give it as a D- tier, as the library is actually quite cramped, and it's actually the study area is also actually quite near to the entrance, which doesn't help in the noise pollution of people entering the library and whatnot. Yeah, and so the facility size is also quite a D tier in this case, as the sofas and seats are actually quite cramped near each other, and it's also causing insufficient space. It actually also doesn't feel that there is aircon flowing there, so it's quite hot and not really that convenient in studying. So I'll give this a D tier. So last but not least, for the northeastern region of Singapore, I've visited the Punggol Regional Library, which I've booked a seat at the study zone at level 3. Now for the convenience wise, I've given it an S+, which is actually the best library in terms of convenience. So for this case, it's not only because that it's sheltered and also connected to the LRT, it also just takes a 3 minutes walk from the LRT itself, which is quite accessible, which shows that it's also the best library in terms of convenience. Then in terms of vibes, I've given it an A tier, as there are actually a lot of seats for studying, such as this study zone with 86 seats actually, and I mean, it also gets booked quite easily though lah, so it's actually quite lower on the vibes section part. And also about the facilities, I've given it an A rank, mainly because there is actually just nice of a table space, sufficient ones, and it's very cold aircon. Thus, I'll give an overall grade of S. So clearly the winner for the northeastern side of Singapore is the Punggol Regional Library, followed by the Serangoon Library and the Sengkang Library, which is mainly in the C and D tiers itself, which personally I do not recommend and would not be going there again for studying actually. So the last few libraries I was at was at the eastern side of Singapore, where the first stop was at Bedok Public Library, where I've booked a seat at the teens fiction section at level 3. So for the convenience section, I have given it a B tier, mainly because it's a 10 minutes walk from the MRT, and it's also that is mainly has shelter from the journey there. So the vibes section will be a B minus tier, as there are actually a lot of kids in the area around the study area itself, so it can be quite noisy and it's not that conducive in studying, hence I give the B minus tier. Same as the facilities side of things, I've also given it a B minus tier. It's not really the best seats that are actually there in terms of comparing to all of the other libraries, as it's actually similar to the ones in Yishun Library, and it can be a bit cramped also. So the overall grade I'll give for this library is a B minus tier. So the next stop that I was at Tampines Regional Library at the Tampines Hub, where I've booked the seat at the study lounge at level 5. So for the convenience section, I have given it a B minus, which is slightly worse than the other libraries, as it's mainly not sheltered, and it also takes around a 5 to 10 minutes walk from the MRT itself. Now for the vibe section, I've given it an S plus tier. As you can see from the lights in the video itself, it shows great lighting, and also that with the rows of tables, it actually shows me some great ambience to me, and also the carpet around the library itself, the study lounge especially. However, it can be quite crowded, hence I didn't use it as an SS tier in this case. And lastly, for the facility section, is an SS tier, best of the best libraries, as one seat itself, you can find 3 plug sockets that you can plug to. Not only that, you have great aircon and sufficient space for you to do your work as well. Heck, there's a lot of things. So the overall grade for this library itself is S tier. So last but not least, I visited the Pasir Ris Public Library, which I've booked the seat at the quiet studying lounge at level 4. So for the convenience section, I've given it a B plus tier, as it's mainly sheltered and in the mall, and also a 5 minutes walk from the MRT itself, which is actually quite close. Then for the vibe section, I've given it a B minus tier, as even though I would say the ambience is okay, it also comes with the trade-off of having slightly more colours of the wall, which I find it to be honest lah. And lastly, in terms of the facility section, I've given it a B tier, as I find that it's just enough table space for me to do my work at, and also having good aircon. Actually, in terms of the aircon wise, will be better than compared to some of the other libraries in Singapore itself. Hence, for this library, it will be a B tier. So lastly, that you see for the eastern side of things, I've mainly ranked all of the libraries down, and in terms of eastern side, I felt that the library in Tampines is mainly better than the ones in Pasir Ris and Bedok itself for eastern side, and somehow it's actually the best area that mainly shows that even the worst library at Bedok personally is still better than the worst ones at each of the other areas, such as the ones in C and D tier mainly. Yeah, so mainly I would say for the top 3 libraries that I felt that was great in terms of every single thing about convenience, about your facilities, and also about your vibes that you're getting in each of the various library types of rooms that you're in. I would say mainly is Tampines, Harbourfront, and Punggol. Then followed by those that are of other areas, such as Woodlands for the white table size, Toa Payoh for the variety of types of seats, and also Bugis as well for the same thing. So mainly these are the types of libraries that I'll personally go for. However, this is just my personal opinion, and mainly it's subjective, where others might feel that other libraries may be more convenient for them, or maybe more preferred for them, mainly due to other reasons. So I'm actually fine with that for different types of opinions to occur as well. So you can actually voice out your opinions as well in the comment section below. And that's it for today's video, guys. Hope you all will enjoy the content of this video. It's actually quite a lot, and also hope that you all can understand the insights that I've given to you all, and hope you all for the best for your future studies. Okay, so I will see you all next time. Alright, goodbye.